Now, I will use Visual Studio Code, which you can get on code.visualstudio.com. This is a free IDE, a very powerful one, a very nice and easy to use one. And this is the IDE I will use here to build my Angular app and work on my Angular app. You can simply download it here. It is available for all major platforms, and walk through the installer that gives you. And once you did that, you can simply open Visual Studio Code. Now, inside Visual Studio Code, simply open the project you just created in the command line, so this Angular project, and you should get something like this. You use File, Open to open that folder. Now, this is the Angular project, and now here I got a specific look. You can hit Command-Shift-P or Control-Shift-P on Windows, and then simply type Theme here to choose your color theme, and I'm using the Dark Plus theme here, which gives me that dark look. Additionally, I use some extensions, and you can hit Command-Shift-X or Control-Shift-X to go to the extensions menu here, or you use View and then choose Extensions here. And there, I'm using the Material Icon package. That is optional, but that explains why the icons in my project will look the way they do look. You can simply install that if you want the same look. And I'm using the Angular Essentials package. And you can simply search for that and install this to have an essential set of extensions in Visual Studio Code that makes working with Angular apps easier. And thereafter, you can switch back to this Explorer view here. Now we have that newly created Angular project, and the remaining thing to do is to start a development server that allows us to work on this project. And you can do that in the terminal where you created the project by navigating into that project with cd ng refresher and then running ngserve, or the way I'll do it, in your IDE in Visual Studio Code, you can click on Terminal, New Terminal, to bring up a new terminal or command prompt, but here inside your IDE. So this is the same normal terminal and command prompt you have outside of it, but here it's simply integrated. And conveniently, it automatically navigated into your project folder. And therefore here, you can also run ngserve. And this again uses the Angular CLI to now bring up a development server, which kicks off that build process I was talking about, which even watches your files for changes to rerun that build process whenever something changes, and which gives you a URL you can visit, this one here, to preview your Angular app. And you can just enter that into your browser. Here it is, localhost 4200, to see your Angular app in a browser as your users would see it. And you need to keep this ngserve process running to keep watching for changes and to be able to visit this again. Double-clicking the index.html file, which you will find here in the source folder, will not do it because A, this is only the input, and this will be bundled up and moved to a different location. For ngserve, this happens in memory, which is why you can't see a different folder here. But B, even if that were the final file, double-clicking it would use the file protocol, not the HTTP protocol, and you need the HTTP protocol for all features to work correctly. Now, last but not least, let me show you what happens behind the scenes. As I mentioned, ngserve does all this compilation and bundling in memory. You can see the real output by running ng-build, and this will now not start a development server, but instead, it will do the same steps the serve process does, compile the TypeScript code and bundle everything up. But you can see what this gives you. It gives you a dist folder, and again, ngserve kind of does the same thing, but behind the scenes in memory only. And there you see that index.html file with that script import I mentioned on an earlier slide. Actually, multiple imports, but the most important import for us is that main.js import, which imports this JavaScript file, and this is your compiled and bundled and optimized Angular code. And this is not the code we're writing, because this doesn't really look like code we would want to write, but it is what we'll get in the end, and it's interesting to keep this in mind, because we will write it in a so much more convenient way by working here in the source folder. And let me now walk you through that folder and Angular's core features in the next lectures.